All right, we got Keith Ippolito back for another episode of the Ip Syndicate today. We've got a great show lined up today. We've got guest today, David Oblas from NFC Fights. He's been around in the fight game in Georgia, promoting fights here in the state of Georgia for a long time here. Probably one of the biggest promoters in the state of Georgia. David, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, man.
Glad you came out here, man. This should be a good show. Just want to get a little bit about your background. I see you've been, promoting for a long time. I know you used to have, I believe it was Undisputed Promotion. How'd you get started in all this?
I've just always been a huge boxing fan,
Okay.
a huge fight fan in general. I started off a boxing fan. I remember watching all the pay-per-view fights with my dad growing up here in Roswell.
Okay.
And then I went to Auburn University.
Oh, you went to Auburn.
I did.
My youngest brother's going to college there now.
He'll come out much better for that.
Yeah, he's a lot smarter than me. I know that.
So I went to Auburn. I guess I turned out to be kind of a fight promoter there. In my fraternity, I was always the
Oh,
guy
so you were promoting fights even in college?
No, I was promoting watching fights in college.
Oh, really? Let's dive into this.
Yeah, so I was the guy that would go around the fraternity house and get like $3 or $4 from everybody to get beer, pizza, watch, Evander Holyfield back then, Mike Tyson back then.
Uh-huh.
I don't think the UFC was too big back then. That was, 1994 to 1998.
Yeah, that was back when there was no rules and some of those famous Gracie and Shamrock fights.
Yeah, so I'd get a couple dollars, get the boxing pay-per-views from everybody. And then after graduating college, I worked as a reporter for a newspaper in Buckhead.
Okay.
And guy behind me was super loud, and he'd always talk to his dad. And it turned out his dad was what's called a inspector for boxing back then for the Athletic Commission.
Okay.
And you'd go backstage, you watch all the fighters wrap their hands, make sure nothing illegal goes on. You walk them into the ring, out of the ring.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, you do that and you get paid to do that? I was like, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
So I started doing that, and I did that for about 3 years. And got paid, I think, $50 every event I went to. So basically, by the time you pay for your gas and your parking and your food there, you're basically in the negative right then.
Yeah.
But I just did it because I enjoyed doing it, something cool.
Yeah.
And after watching fights for a couple years, I just saw, anything you think about Don King or the worst fight promoter you'd ever know or the stereotypical things, I saw it all. I saw fight promoters that were scumbags that were negotiating with fighters afterwards and not pay them as much.
This is all witnessing this as an inspector.
Yeah, I'm just witnessing as an inspector saying, my God, this sport kind of sucks. Like, these promoters are ridiculous. I went to, it was called the Roxy back then in Buckhead. It's now called the Buckhead Theater. I went there for a fight. I was there on 2 different occasions. I saw the ring basically collapse in the middle of the fight, the first fight. So all the fans.
And what year was this?
This was probably, 1999, I guess.
Okay.
I graduated Auburn in 98, so this was about a year later in 99.
Okay.
So I saw on 2 different occasions the ring just collapsed at the beginning of the first round of the first fight. So the whole night was canceled. I saw another night where you had to have a fight doctor, ringside for all fights.
Mm-hmm.
They brought out why can I not think of a gynecologist?
Yeah.
A
gynecologist?
They brought out a gynecologist as a fight doctor.
Wow.
So the Athletic Commission went and
That's
canceled
not
it.
let alone not even the right sex. I mean, geez, come on.
I mean, I don't even think they were. They have the ability to sew up a cut or anything like that.
Yeah.
I don't think they have the ability to do anything besides sew up a vagina, maybe. But that's not going to help you during every boxing match. So the whole event was scratched right then. And I'm just thinking, I'm seeing event after event, just horrible mismatches, rings falling apart, events canceled because of doctor. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, man, I can do better than this. So I became friends with a guy back then named O'Neal Bell, and he went on to be the cruiserweight champion of the world, which is one weight class below heavyweight.
Okay.
And I became friendly with him, and I said, man, if I try to put on a boxing match, which is ridiculous, would you help me? And he was like, not only will I help you, but I'll be the main event. I'll fight in it.
Oh, wow.
So it was June of 2002. I put on my first fight at the same venue, the Roxy in Buckhead.
Okay.
And O'Neal was the main event, and he got the undercard fighters for me. I put it on. The AJC, the Atlanta Sports, put me on the cover of the sports edition of the paper just as being the youngest fight promoter ever in the state of Georgia. I was 26 at the time.
26, and you're promoting your first fight. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So I had kind of no idea what I was doing. I think I lost like $7,500 that night.
So you learned a lot from that first fight.
Yeah, I mean, when you sell out the venue and you still lose $7,500, you realize you did something wrong.
So I'm curious because I forgot that's been so long since I've been to that venue. So how many people can they fit in that?
I think they've redone it a few times since then. I think they just did a multi-million-dollar rephasing of it and built a high-rise right next door to it there. But I think for a boxing match back then, it's probably about 800 people. I think
800.
I think for a concert, you can get 12 or 1,300.
12 okay. That makes sense because you're gonna take seats away, obviously, for the ring and etc.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, because that was years ago. What were ticket prices back then?
I think I've kept my ticket prices almost the same, and that's the crazy thing.
Really?
I think even a fighter made a smart-ass comment to me like a week ago that my ticket prices were overpriced.
What?
And I'm sitting there, I'm like, my ticket prices haven't changed. Like, it's always been like standing room, general admission, $25. You can be on the floor for $40. The next, like, the 5 closest rows, $50, and then row run is $100.
Yeah.
Or VIP tables of 8 are $800 for 8 people. And I think it's been that way since I started off. Like,
and even like you said, if you get the table, that's $100 a person. I mean, you can't even go to a Falcons game for $100. Hell, even the new soccer team, Atlanta United tickets are over $100 now.
Yeah, and we put you so close to the cage that you're within 6 feet of the cage for $100. I mean, you're guaranteed to get blood or sweat on you at some point.
In fact, I remember even being at one fight. I was with my cousin, and it was one of the fights. She's not a big on MMA, and got fight or open wound, had blood everywhere, and I think it almost got on her table, and she was like, "I'm over." Yeah. I was like, "I'll see you at the bar after the fight."
Yeah, I mean, basically, like every Sunday after a fight, I've got to go and like disinfect my laptop and stuff like that. 'Cause all on my laptop cage side, I'll get blood on the outside where the little Apple thing is or whatever. So it's kind of a pain in the ass there.
Yeah, I hear you. So, it sounds like you got a couple events coming up in this month over here. You want to talk about some of them? It look like you've got an event on the 22nd at Cowboys for NFC 108, and it looks like you have another event on the 30th at the Infinity Center for that kickboxing and some grappling.
Yeah, so basically I try to do an event about every 6 weeks on average.
Okay.
Give or take it every 6 weeks. So obviously that's once a month usually. And this is the first time I've ever done 3 shows in 1 month.
Oh, really?
So I just had one on June 9th. I did my first ever Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu pro total event, and that was this past Saturday night at Center Stage. And then I've got Friday, June 22nd, Electric Cowboy in Kennesaw, a mix of Muay Thai, MMA, pro and amateur, one of our normal NFC shows.
Okay.
And then NFC 109 will be Saturday, June 30th at Infinite Energy Center, and this will be the second year in a row we've done that. And that's basically from like 10 a.m. till 5 p.m. So it's like a complete afternoon show.
That's an
all-day show, and that's actually an NFC kickboxing tournament mixed in with a Copa grappling tournament.
Okay.
Mixed in with a Legacy karate tournament.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of, you get in for $10. And you see
all these $10 across the board.
Yeah, $10.
Wow, that's a bargain.
Yeah, and you get to and the cool thing is for the fighters in all 3 different sports, kickboxing, karate, and grappling, they're getting the energy of 3 different things going on in one environment. Because usually there's a kickboxing tournament on like a Saturday afternoon at high school. There's a grappling tournament at McEachern High School, whatever.
Yeah.
So we're combining a place that you get all 3 in one.
Yeah.
And it's one of the coolest, nicest upscale venues here in Atlanta, Infinite Energy Center.
Very cool. Now, for these fights coming up, kind of what's the cards like? Is there a main attraction for you that is gonna bring the crowds in or whatever?
Yeah, I think the one's Friday, June 22nd. We kind of got a co-main event and a main event that are both super good. We've got in the main event for the 155 NFC Pro title.
Okay.
Is Jonathan Cobb, who's undefeated at 4-0.
Okay.
Versus Robert Hale, who's 3-2, but he's actually won his last 3 fights in a row in a tournament in South Carolina.
Okay.
So in the last year or so, one guy's 3-0, one guy's 4-0.
Okay.
And they actually fought about a year and a half ago, and Robert Hale was beating the crap out of John Cobb, and then all of a sudden John Cobb pulls out the submission win.
Okay, so we got a rematch here.
Yeah, so it's a rematch for the title of 2 guys with a combined 7-0 record lately.
That's really that should be a good one.
Yeah, and then co-main event is a guy named LJ Jones versus a guy named Trayshawn Gore, and LJ trains up in Marietta with a gym called Team Majero. And Trayshawn's with ATT.
Okay.
American Top
Team down I think that's down in Lindbergh, right?
Yes, they've got 2 locations.
Oh, they have
Gwinnett.
a second location now.
Yeah, so they're
Okay.
in Atlanta and off Sugarloaf Parkway in Gwinnett.
Okay.
And these two guys hate each other. They've been going back and forth quite a bit, and they're actually doing, uniquely enough, winner take all for their purse money, which doesn't happen that often.
Oh,
in MMA.
wow. So
Yeah.
the stakes are
A little higher.
real high.
Yeah.
Can you disclose what the purse
I
at?
think it's about 1,500, give or take. I
Okay.
can't remember. So,
Okay.
until they get to the main event,
Uh-huh.
they're about 1,500 winner take all. So
Okay.
the cool thing is, both guys is going to go out for the win even that much more.
Oh, absolutely.
And whoever loses is getting their ass kicked and going home with no money.
So you're basically saying we can go out and see this main event right now for at the most $100. I think that's a bargain, man.
Even at Electric Cowboy is a little less price. It's $100.
Oh.
$100 for row 1. Rows 2 through 5 are only $40. So you can
wow.
you can be in row 2, 8 feet from the cage for $40.
Wow, that's a steal, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm gonna go. You just sold me. I'm going.
Awesome.
That's awesome, man. So you got these two events coming up. Under the NFC brand. I wanted to talk to you a little about. I know you got acquired by Alliance MMA. Why don't you talk about that a little bit? How did that come into fruition?
Yeah, so I guess it was a super cool experience, and it went over a little over a year for me. For some guys, it went over 2 years for the other promotions. I became friendly with a guy named Mick Maynard, and he was the owner of LFA and Legacy years ago. He's now the matchmaker for the UFC. But me and Mick did a few shows together here in Atlanta that were on Access TV, and he actually brought me into Alliance MMA, told me a lot of good things about it at first. This was probably close to 3 years ago now. And he ended up not joining Alliance MMA at that point in time, but told me all the good things about it. And when he pulled out, that actually made me pull out because my trust was in Mick.
You trusted his judgment so much that was enough for
When Mick said he was pulling out, and it wasn't because he didn't believe in the product, just the terms didn't work for him. I guess.
Something wasn't right, and
So I said no to my offer as well, and then I don't know, maybe 6 months later, I had seen everything that they had done, the other promotions they acquired, what they were doing out there. So I messaged them and said, hey, things didn't work out, but you guys interested in talking again? I just shot them an email completely out of the blue one day. And they said, hey, we've also been following you because you were on our radar. They said, we didn't make a lot of offers to a lot of people. You were in our radar, and you still are, so we're interested. So they visited me a couple of times in Atlanta, came out to their show, and liked what they saw, maybe another offer. I said yes. And I think April, May was about a year that I was with them. They lasted a little over 2 years, and unfortunately they're now out of business.
Yeah. So what happened with that? Did they didn't file bankruptcy, or did they? Or
I don't know. I mean, I think I'm still waiting to find out a lot of the missing parts as well. It just happened. It's pretty fresh for us. Only 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Really? So it's very raw.
Yeah, I mean, it's very raw. It blindsided me and some other people. Maybe some saw it coming. We all watch the stock price every day. We all saw the stock price going down. But that's not always a telltale sign. There's a lot of companies that stock prices go up or down.
The markets go up and down, so that could, like you said, that could be anything.
Yeah. So one day I woke up and I got a text that one of my checks bounced. And I talked to one of the other promoters. One of their checks bounced, and obviously we started making phone calls.
And they never bothered to reach out to you or communicate that there was financial problems and all that.
I mean, there was quite a number of group conference calls that we knew there were financial problems.
Okay.
But it's one of those things that you think we're going to get past because we've gotten past them before. So you never knew one was the last one.
Yeah.
If your mom and dad are fighting, and every night when you go to bed, you hear your mom and dad yelling at each other, you don't think they're going to get a divorce the next day.
No, of course not.
You just think they're yelling at each other.
Exactly.
So we never knew when it was going to happen. We didn't know how it happened. Many for us promoters, it was the first time we've ever been involved in a publicly traded company.
Yeah.
So we kind of thought...
Is it not... is Alliance, was that not the first mixed martial arts company to go public in the stock market?
I think they always claim that they were, but I think years ago there was the IFL. Years ago, probably 15 years ago, there was the International Fight League.
Okay.
And uniquely enough, I bought $1,000 in them after watching a 60 Minutes episode on the IFL.
No kidding.
And I subsequitly lost my $1,000 when they went out of business. So I guess technically I'm 0 for 2 for public companies.
So you're 0 for 2 right now.
Yeah. But I mean, Alliance was a tremendous experience, and like I said, I don't even know what's happening next with it. I'm still waiting to find out.
Okay.
But it was a tremendous experience. It allowed us, I always tell people, I've got a couple friends that own restaurants, and I know you come from the restaurant business as well.
Yeah.
And even though you might be competitive with the Italian restaurant next door to you, you're not competitive with the Italian restaurant in Memphis or the Italian restaurant in Woodstock or whatever.
Yeah.
So you and your family can talk to other restaurant owners and share tips, share what's worked well, what hasn't worked well. When you're a fight promoter, there's not a lot of us fight promoters across the country.
No, there's really not. I mean, I remember years ago, working events, and there was only, I believe, there was obviously you. There was that other guy who would have his show. I'm drawing a blank on his name at the Georgia World Congress Center. I don't remember that guy's name.
There was one called Sport Fight X with Soko.
Yeah, that's it. I think Soko had some legal issues.
Yeah, actually, I hated that guy with a passion back
He
then.
kind of seemed like he was a sleazeball.
But now he's actually best friends with one of my best friends.
So wow.
We've ended up talking, but he was actually good, but I hated him with a passion back then because he was pretty damn good at what he did.
Oh, yeah.
For a little while, the little time he lasted. But like I say, there's really not too many fight promoters across the country that we can go to for advice and see how they dealt with an issue and how we should deal with it. And what events they've done and what twists that they've done that have worked well. We all watch the UFC, we all watch Bellator, and we steal ideas from them. Yeah. But we don't get to talk to the UFC or Bellator.
Of course not. It's not like you're going to say, oh, hey, Dana, what did you do for this?
Right.
Yeah.
So that was, Alliance was a cool way for, 10 to 12 of us fight promoters get in the same conference room for 3 days and talk about
ideas.
Exactly.
So now that obviously you guys were all working together, are you guys still piggybacking off ideas with these guys, or have you guys kind of all split your separate ways now?
Yeah, I think everyone's split for now. I think almost everyone's scared to talk to each other, I guess, because we don't know, like I said, what's going to happen. Everyone's trying to figure that out. There's one promoter I talked to in Memphis a lot, a guy named Nick with V3. We've got him pretty close.
Okay.
Because he's the closest promoter to me geographically.
Okay.
So we talk every few days, and I know he's actually got a big show this weekend. He's got Dana White coming in town for his Looking for a Fight.
Oh, wow.
Okay. TV show.
So he's going to be promoting that card big time.
Yeah. So I was lucky enough to have Dana White come to my show when he launched this TV show, Looking for a Fight. Like I was the pilot of that show.
I think I've seen some of that on YouTube or whatever. How was that experience?
It was cool. It was nice to have him there. The only problem was I could never tell anyone in advance he was coming.
So he would just show up.
He just showed up. He wanted at the time it was like I said, it was the first episode. It was a pilot for the show, so I don't think they knew where he was going to go.
Yeah.
So they said when he walks in the building, he doesn't want anyone to know he's there, and he wants the effect to be like, "Holy crap, Dana White's in the building."
Well, I guess that's understandable for the aspect of the show, but I can see how that could be a little frustrating for you because you're always like on guard or whatever.
Yeah. Not only that, we only had about maybe a month. That was going to be a smaller show we were going to do, and I think it was like 8 amateur fights and only like 3 pro fights that night. It just happened to be a smaller show.
Okay.
And they said if you can get 7 pro fights on the card, Dana will come in town for it. Really? And I'm sitting there like, it's 3 weeks till showtime. How do I now convince 4 more pro fights that they need to come on? So I basically told all these fighters, I can't tell you why you want to fight on this card, but if you want your life to change, you need to be on this card.
You need to be here.
Yeah, and then
so did everybody go just not ask questions? They were all with it and just kind of trusting that you were.
Yeah, they were trusting that I wasn't lying to them or misleading them. And the problem is, what happens if Dana had something else come up or emergency or the show doesn't go well?
Yeah, obviously that's putting your name on the line because now these fighters are going to say, hey, what is this,
Yeah, they would think I would have led them astray on purpose. So, yeah, luckily he did show up. All the fighters got to be watched by Dana White that night and ended up good. So what I was going to say, what resulted from that?
any of the fighters who were on that card, were they able to make a name for themselves, or how did that?
Unfortunately, he didn't sign anyone from that
Oh,
show.
he did not?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if he signs. I don't really watch every show, so I don't know if he signed someone from every show to his UFC or not. Mm-hmm. But that night he didn't.
He did not
Again,
sign.
it was the pilot of this show. It did air on TV, but it was the pilot. But no one got signed, and I don't know if that was just no one, made an amazing knockout that night or impressed him that much.
Yeah.
I'm
curious, what were the fighters' reactions or how were they introduced to him? Was he just sitting ringside, or did he introduce himself before the fights and say, "Hey, you guys are about to have a life-changing experience"?
Yeah, so I got to tell them, we had the weigh-in the day before, and I still couldn't tell them then, but I told them there was a mandatory meeting on fight day at noon at this gym. And
okay.
It was Knuckle Up Fitness on Roswell Road in Sandy Springs.
Okay.
And because right before then, the UFC was in their old office a couple years ago, and there's a fire at the old office that supposedly burned down part of it.
Okay.
And they wanted to meet all the fighters at the gym the day of the show, and they wanted me to pick a gym that had some kind of unique value.
Yeah.
So I was like, well, you guys just had a fire at the UFC. This gym, Knuckle Up Fitness, just had a fire in their sauna where half the gym burned down. So I had them come out there and meet all the fighters on the card that Saturday afternoon. And this gym was still doing like jiu-jitsu and cardio kickboxing, but they had plastic up everywhere and stuff.
Did you notice or notify Knuckle Up at all, or were they just as shocked as?
I was able to give them like 3 days notice, and that's it.
Okay.
And I kind of told the owner, I was like, hey, I'm begging you not to tell your people, but you're going to have Dana White there come there Saturday and meet with all the fighters and walk around your gym and look at it.
I bet you that was so hard.
Yeah, it was, and I don't think he believed me as well.
No, really?
I don't think he fully prepped or believed me. So he showed up, and all the other fighters showed up, and we just sat there and waited an hour for Dana White to walk in, and the camera guys got there first, and I think when the camera guys showed up with the long beam pose and stuff like that, I think then all the fighters looked at each other and said, "Holy crap, something's happening!" David wasn't lying to us.
Yeah.
And then Dana White walks in and greets all the guys. Right then. That was the first time I saw him. I was like, "Thank God."
That must have been. I mean, you've already been in this game in Georgia for a while, and you've got the credibility. That probably was just like, wow.
Yeah. It was cool because I think even probably 10 years ago, I was told Floyd Mayweather was in town. And he was going to come to my fights. At the time, they were up at Wild Bill's in Duluth.
That's right, because you do boxing also,
Yeah, well, this is actually an MMA card, but he just happened to be in town that weekend. So they said Mayweather's going to come in town. So I met him out a couple days earlier at Wild Bill's, and we showed them the back door, how to get in, where the dress rooms are, the security, where all the security points would be. And then we got him a VIP section upstairs where no one would be there. We had to have the GM there, the bartender there.
What place was this at again?
It was called Wild Bill's up in Duluth.
Oh yeah, that's they're not in business anymore, aren't they?
Yeah, they went out of business a couple years ago. And it was just incredible that they were going to bring Mayweather up to the fight, and I also thought it was BS as well. And then we get there. They tell us everything that needs to happen. They basically say, nobody talks to Floyd. They said no one at all talks to Floyd.
So he's off.
No one
he's off limits. Nothing.
Completely off limits.
Okay.
And this was also an 18 and older venue, and they said he's going to have a couple kids with him. And they said if that's a problem, we're not coming. So we said no, it's fine. He can bring the kids in. We're just bring them right upstairs and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So he comes there probably 9 o'clock, and we keep the whole back parking lot
sectioned
empty.
off.
Yeah, sectioned off. We have security back there. And it was amazing. It was almost like Donald Trump rolling in or something like that. Like you get 3 black Escalades coming in. It's almost like you see on 24/7 the TV show.
Yeah.
So he comes in with 3 black Escalades that come in at the front on the
side entrance. Yeah.
And then he pulls up in black. I don't even know what the heck that was. Bentley or whatever the heck.
He's got so many cars. You can keep track of them. Yeah.
So then 2 more Escalades on the side and 3 more behind him. So he's completely surrounded by black Escalades. No one gets out of the Escalades until he gets out first. So once he gets out of his car in the middle, everyone gets out, and all these guys are 6'8", 240 or whatever.
He's got all his entourage, everything.
They're all surrounding him exactly like you see on TV show. He's got this brown book bag on him, and the only thing I'm thinking is, that's the bag. That's the money bag. Yeah, that's the money bag. And I'm looking, I'm like, holy crap. And I'm a little dude. I'm like 5'3" and a half, 150, and he gets close to me. I'm looking at him like, that son of a bitch is no bigger than I am.
He's really not that big of a guy. It's
they
crazy.
advertised him, I think, on TV at 5'6".
Yeah,
and I'm like,
How?
Yeah, I'm looking at him. He's no more than 5'4", or 5'4.5", or something like that. So everything's going good. He's on his phone. They're surrounding him. He gets to the back door of Wild Bill's. The security guy at the back door of Wild Bill's looks at him and goes, "Oh, hey, Floyd, how old are your kids? Can I see ID?"
Oh, come on.
Right when that happened, Floyd turns around without missing a beat, gets back in his car,
Oh, my
and they
God.
all get out of there.
Wow.
And their leader looks at me and goes, "Man, we talked about this. Nobody talks to Floyd. No one asked for ID for the kids."
Jesus.
And he goes, "Now Floyd's going to go back to his hotel room and play video games all night. He won't leave his room."
Wow.
And-
So that one question just...
And that was the end of it.
Wow.
And I told people that day that Floyd Mayweather's coming to the fights. And no one saw the video. No one saw him backstage except me and a couple other people. So no one believed us that he ever even showed up.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, so going back to the Dana White, I was worried that if Dana White didn't show,
You were having flashbacks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Jeez.
No.
That's speaking of Floyd, obviously, the rumors are him, training for MMA fight. What do you think of that? Do you think he has a shot at all to beat anyone or no? Or
I think he's going to do it because I think the payday is too large to say no.
If I've heard numbers as, 500 million to even $1 billion 3-fight deal, I mean, it's hard to pass that up.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely going to do it. I just don't think they should waste a lot of time putting him in with a chump out there because the chump might actually beat him.
That's very true.
I think they've got to do it right away and have him either fight Conor McGregor or, Diaz. And the Diaz will stand and trade.
Yeah.
And, at the same time, if Mayweather gets beat, who cares? He got beat in a completely different sport that he's not undefeated in.
Exactly. It has nothing to do with his boxing record. He can still have his 50-0 trademark. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think as long as he has some humility and honor after the fight, if he gets his ass whooped, I think people would side by him and say, "Oh my God."
I agree. I think if he did get his ass kicked and he showed some humility, I don't think it would be a knock on him. I really don't.
Yeah, I agree.
That's a good perspective. Right? I haven't thought about it like that too much. That's real interesting. So, now you're obviously still doing your fights. So what's your plans now as far as, the fight game in Georgia? Obviously you have fights coming up. Do you have any other plans with that, or are you just kind of going to see how things play out over here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I've always wanted to be everything with combat sports in Georgia. I mean,
okay.
I don't really have the huge desire to expand outside Georgia. I think Georgia's my home. I've lived here my whole life.
I gotcha.
I can do what I want to do and be extremely successful in Georgia alone.
Yeah,
so I started.
Atlanta's a pretty big market.
Yeah, and I started off in boxing years ago. I mean, when I started from 2002 to 2005, I was a boxing promoter, and that's it.
Okay.
And I went and saw my first MMA event, and I was like, oh, my God, I got to get into this.
Mm-hmm.
So when I got into MMA, some of the MMA purists in Atlanta back then said, he's going to ruin the sport of MMA. He's a boxing...
Saying this about you?
About me. He's a boxing guy. He doesn't know anything about MMA. He's going to ruin the sport.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to make it corrupt like boxing, blah, blah, blah. Obviously proved those people wrong over the last 15 years or so promoting MMA and promoting it much bigger and better than they ever did.
Yeah.
Then I wanted to get into grappling, so I put on a Copa grappling show a year ago along with our kickboxing tournament, and then I just did our first pro jiu-jitsu show this past weekend.
Yeah.
And all the fighters, trainers, gyms, they all had a tremendous time. It was a near sellout. We had 22 fights on the card, actually, and it was one of the best nights for Atlanta Jiu-Jitsu out there.
Yeah.
So now I've done boxing, I've done kickboxing, I've done MMA, I'm getting into Jiu-Jitsu now.
So you're covering it all.
I'm covering it all,
yeah.
And that's what I want to do with NFC, was really expand it to different events.
Yeah, and, like you said, you're getting your hands into all of these. That's got to be pretty easy to maybe do 3 fights a month if that's what you're trying to do from now on.
Yeah, and this was the coolest thing is the 3 fights this month are 3 completely different fights at different venues. I mean, one is at Electric Cowboy, a redneck venue in Kennesaw.
I've been to Cowboys before. Yeah. That's a very interesting crowd.
Yeah, and then Center Stage, one of the nicest venues in Atlanta, in Midtown Atlanta.
Yep.
and then Infinite Energy Forum in
that's a beautiful arena over. So how'd you get hooked up with Infinite Arena over there? That's a real nice spot over there.
I wanted a spot last year for this kickboxing tournament and Copa grappling tournament that was large enough to do them both in the same
building.
And I didn't want to do it like a high school where historically there's grappling events going on. I just didn't want a high school.
Of course, you wanted the big.
I wanted the big. I want people to walk in and be impressed with it and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of between that and like the Cobb County Civic Center, but there's other grappling promoters that use that, so I didn't want to use the same venue. So this costs a lot more, but it's just a lot nicer, and that's what I was looking for.
Yeah, sometimes you got to spend a little bit of money to get the product out there that you want.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So I think that's about gonna wrap it up for us here, David. I really appreciate you coming on the show, man.
Cool.
This has been a great show. Yeah, man. All right.